Hi everyone, it's Dr. Cordella Forey, Director of Public Health for Manchester. Welcome back to the Unfiltered Podcast, where we talk about tobacco use in all its forms, why people use it, what people use, and the support they can get from Be Smoke Free Manchester to stop using tobacco for good. Today, I'm joined by Jaya, who has a really powerful story of how she supported her dad to stop smoking.
Thank you for having me, Cordell. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Excited to be here today.
Could you start off just by telling us a little bit about your dad and what he's like as a person?
Right, okay. Where do I start with my dad? So, big class clown.
Right.
Always loves being the centre of attention. He loves making everyone laugh.
Yeah.
All my friends know him that way. All his friends know him that way. Everyone in our neighbourhood knows him like that. And he's always been like that. He's always been someone that just loves making everyone around him laugh and have fun. And alongside that, he's a great chef. He's a great cook, loves to cook. Food is his love language. And he just loves to be that person that hosts and cooks meals for everyone around him. So I guess my childhood was sort of categorised with both those things. It was lots of fun, lots of humour, and then some really good food. So it was a nice combination of both things growing up. And I guess for me now, I want to be that person. Yeah. I want to be able to host people and make people laugh. And I think that has really just come from him and what I've been around growing up. So yeah, he's great.
And was smoking always in the background growing up?
Yeah, so as long as I remember, he smoked. I think it started a long time before I was even born. And I guess it's something that you just become so accustomed to, and you sometimes don't realise it's even happening. There's a routine when it comes to smoking, so he'd wake up in the morning, have a cup of tea and go and have a cigarette. And I think that I got so used to that growing up that maybe I didn't even realise it was happening sometimes, because it was just such a part of the family routine that he was a smoker. I had friends whose parents smoked, and I guess maybe I didn't realise the extent of his smoking growing up and when I was younger, but as you get older, you just become more aware of it. And I think that's what happened as I became a teenager. I saw it more, I was noticing it more than I was when I was younger, and tried to breach it more with him, but never quite got through. And I think that's the thing that I struggled with, was that it was very much a, no, I'm not having that conversation, and that was always a barrier that I struggled to get through to him around, was stopping smoking.
Yeah. Was there a particular kind of moment where it went from being something that was just in the background, that was just part of your life, to you actually having real concerns about him?
So when I graduated university, I got a job in public health, and working in public health, you're really exposed to life expectancy in Manchester, health conditions, health problems, and the things that can make your life expectancy shorter, and smoking being one of the top things that does reduce your life expectancy. So I guess that exposure for me was such a wake-up call, because something that I knew was bad, I knew that it was wrong that he smoked, suddenly was in my face every day at work. I was seeing the impact of smoking on residents, and I think then I would go home and see him do the same. And I think that was the wake-up call for me, where it was like, okay, I understand the facts now.
Can you tell me a bit more about that? Like, what did you understand about the health effects, and what did that mean for thinking about your dad?
So I guess smoking is one thing, and then if you have other health conditions, so my dad is type 1 diabetic, he's from a South Asian background, and there's these layers that I think I noticed in him that then I thought, oh, he's also smoking. And I guess that for me was like, oh wow, his life expectancy is already quite reduced and he's smoking. That is a massive wake-up call for me. I could potentially lose him. So my dad lost his father from a heart attack at a young age. So I think it's just sort of not wanting to be part of that cycle of losing a parent at a young age. I wanted him to be around for as long as possible. And that was, I guess, a worry for me. But also frustration, because it was hard for me to work in an environment where we were trying really hard to stop people from smoking, to help people through their journey to come off tobacco use. And then I'd go home, see him, and see him smoking still. And that's a real contradiction, because it's something that you're trying so hard in your career to help other people with, then I couldn't even help him. So that, I think, was the real kind of turning point for me.
I know that led to a conversation one Christmas. So can you tell us about that?
Christmas 2023, this was.
Right.
So Christmas for my family has always been a time where we've come together, we share stories about our year, we have some really nice food, he cooks some really nice food, play games, and we also talk about our resolutions for next year. So what do we want to achieve next year? What do we want to be better at and do? And it was funny because none of his resolutions were, I want to stop smoking. And that led to a bit of a confrontation. I'm an eldest daughter. I'm not afraid of confrontation. I'll have it if it needs to be had. And I think I sort of saw it as the opportunity then to have that confrontation and have that conversation more than anything around smoking and his smoking. So I essentially just said to him, the way that you're going and the amount of cigarettes that you're consuming every day and how long you've been doing that for, you will not be here to see my children, who are your grandchildren. And that's a hard truth and not what he wanted to hear. But unfortunately, I do think that would have been the case. I don't think he would have been here to see important milestones in my life, because I just think he would have unfortunately passed away from smoking before I got to reach those milestones the way he was going. I essentially said what I said, then waited to see how that conversation was processed in his brain, just to give him that time to think it through. And essentially that led to a text from him in the new year saying, I want to do this. I really want to try this time and do it. And I think that for me was like, wow, I've actually got through. And something that was really hard to say has actually led to a great outcome. And that's when I came across Be Smoke Free.
Oh, so what did you do next?
So I found out about Be Smoke Free online. And I saw there was a referral service where you could refer a friend or a family member. And that then started his journey with Be Smoke Free. So initially, it's a 30-minute conversation with an advisor. You can have that in person or over the phone. He chose to have it over the phone. And I remember being in the room when this conversation happened, and his advisor said to him, what age did you start smoking? And he said 16. So that's around sort of 40 years of smoking. It's a long time, a long portion of his life. And even that little thing, admitting when he first started smoking, I saw as a massive milestone moment in that journey. And then that began the 12-week process where every 2 weeks he had check-ins with his advisor. They set a quit date. So what was he going to aim for to try and quit by? And that, I guess, provides that accountability for him to work towards a goal. But also the great thing about Be Smoke Free is that you can have a buddy, and he chose me. And that was nice. I think it was a bit of like I want you to be on this journey with me. I don't want to do this alone. And I think being able to be part of that with him, not from the point of judgment or criticising, but from a support perspective. And just because I love him and I will do whatever I can to support him. And I was able to be his buddy, which is nice. Nice that he knows he can trust me.
And had he ever tried before to stop before? Yeah.
So we had tried a few times before when I was growing up. We tried one method where my mum would hide the cigarettes in singles around the house, and he'd get to have one at different points of the day to try and reduce how many he was having. But nothing ever really stuck. And I think what's different about Be Smoke Free and the journey he went on with Be Smoke Free was the support. The nicotine replacement therapy, which he had vapes, they were brought to him. They were delivered to his door. He didn't have to go outside to get them. They were brought to where he was at. And I think that was a massive change to what he had before when he tried to give up. But this time, I think actually me being there with him throughout the journey and an advisor being there with him, it was like he had that support net around him, and that people in his corner, people were wanting the best for him. That is actually, I think, what was different this time. and the conversation before Christmas. But yeah, I can't take all the credit.
Has he ever mentioned the difference that conversation
No,
made?
I think that was the sort of conversation that we leave at Christmas 2023.
Right.
We don't talk about it again. We've talked about maybe the future since, but in terms of that conversation, we've left that there, but that's fine because I think it worked.
Moving on to him stopping smoking, because it sounds like it was successful, the support that he had. What changes have you started to notice in him once he stopped?
He became much more active, going out more, going on long hikes. We've got a dog, so he was walking the dog more. I think just that general physical activity, that increased. He picked up old hobbies. He used to play squash when he was younger. He picked that back up. His skin's got a lot more colour in it now. He doesn't have a cough anymore. I don't think he snores anymore, according to my mum. So I think there's like these little changes that maybe before he got so used to and was such a big part, just such a normal part of his life, having a cough all the time. Now they're just not there anymore.
And how's that affected your relationship with him?
I think it's brought us closer. I think being there with someone who's going through something which is hard, it's really hard to come off something that you've been so used to for 40 plus years. I'm really proud of him and I can't thank him enough, really, I guess, in a lot of ways. Thank him for making the decision to realise that enough is enough. I need to do this now for my family and my family unit.
It's such an amazing story, and you've spoken now about your hope for the future, the things that you're looking forward to him being around for. Was there ever a point when you genuinely thought that might not be the case in terms of him being there for those things?
I think when we started talking about his 60s, so he turned 60 last year. I remember talking about it with him, jokingly saying, "Oh, you're approaching your 60s now," and I think previously there's always been a bit of a fear around that growing older because I recognised that was going on. He was smoking a lot of cigarettes a day and therefore ageing seemed like quite a scary thing and growing older was scary, I think, for me, my family and maybe for him, but he never admitted it. But now actually it's the complete opposite. We were in Morocco last year when he turned 60 and it wasn't filled with dread or fear. It was just filled with excitement about what's to come, what the next 10 years going to look like, and knowing that he was going to see through at least the next 10 years and beyond, I think now, is exciting. And it's no longer filled with that kind of, oh gosh, what's going to happen? Will he still be here? Is it going to suddenly go wrong? It's now filled with, when's the next trip? When's the next nice holiday? And that's exciting to look forward to, whereas before it wasn't that. It was more just, are we going to see it to the next milestone? Are we going to see it to 70?
Did you ever think what might have happened if you hadn't had that conversation that Christmas?
I think potentially my relationship with him wouldn't be the same as it is now. I think that I would have struggled even more still working in health and still have to go when I go back home and see him, still seeing him smoking. I would have found that really tricky. And I think I would have had to put some boundaries in for myself to sort of say, I can't be around this. And maybe if I did have children, would I want them to be also around someone who's smoking? So I guess maybe that for me would be the case. Would our relationship still be the same? Even just in that short amount of time that's passed, so much has changed. So I'm thinking that's exciting. And it's no longer filled with that fear that he's not going to be here anymore.
And how does that feel, knowing that you can now look forward to all of those things in the future?
It's exciting. I think it's just a massive weight has been lifted. It's like it was such a big part of our relationship and our family unit. It was him smoking. He'd go out and have cigarettes in the morning when we'd all be having breakfast, and he was quite removed sometimes from the family in that way. And now it's like we're all together again. I've kind of got him back, and it's just nice to see him take his health into his own hands and take his life into his own hands. He wants to embrace life. He wants to live as long as possible, and that's really nice to watch. And I guess that's the lesson that he's teaching now to myself and my brother, to embrace life and make those decisions to make sure that you live longer, not just for yourself, but those around you. So yeah, massive respect for him, of course.
Such an inspirational story, Jaya, both in terms of what you did in speaking up with your dad, but also the changes that he's managed to make in his life after 40 years. It's just It's really inspiring. So what would you say to someone your age who's worried about a parent who smokes?
Have a think about what's the best way to approach it with your parent. Is it through a conversation? Is it through maybe just sharing this podcast with them and saying, oh, I came across this really interesting podcast, have a listen? It might not be a confrontation like what I had at Christmas. You might have to do it sooner than that. Wait until Christmas might not be a solution. But find that kind of hook that maybe works for your parents to start the conversation. And again, it's not about expecting it to happen overnight. It's just you start that conversation early, you start bridging that gap and having that difficult conversation.
For any parents out there that think that their smoking only affects them, what would you say to them?
I think I would say there's more than just you in your future. There's everyone around you, your family unit, your friends, your colleagues, the people that support you. They would be impacted if something happened to you, and that smoking can lead to quite serious issues, cancer, early death. And think about the knock-on effect that would have for those around you that love you and care about you and that only want the best for you. And essentially smoking is a choice, and it's something that you can start the journey to give up. It's not going to be easy, but just think about the impact that it would have on everyone around you as well, and how much they want to see you there for as long as possible. Reaching those milestones with your children, seeing their children, your grandchildren, they're massive things. And that unfortunately my dad's dad, so my granddad, didn't get to see. I never got to meet him. So don't let that happen. Make those choices to live longer and see your children through some really important milestones in their life. We owe it to our parents and our family members to support them and help them to give up smoking. When my dad started smoking 40 plus years ago, the knowledge, the information around the harmful effects of smoking, they weren't as public as they are now. They weren't as well known. The research and the time that we've spent into understanding the impact of smoking, it's massive. We know so much about it now. We know about the long-term effects. We need to use that and use that knowledge as power to motivate, to encourage, to support your parents and support them from that place of knowledge. So it's not a case of, can you stop doing this? It's, I know this can cause this. This is why you need to stop. And I think that providing them with a bit more support, I think we owe it to our parents and our family members to do that. And I think as well, if it is tricky, it's a conversation that is always a tricky one to navigate. Take time. I think it's not going to happen overnight. It took me a long time to try and find the angle in which to kind of pitch it to my dad to really get through to him. But essentially it came from him. He's the one who reached out to me with that text to say, I want to do this. That final step was on him. It wasn't on me. And sometimes that's what you have to just wait for. You have to wait for it to click, and then you support them without judgment, without kind of hesitation. You just support them when they're ready. And that's how I did it, and it worked. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful to be smoke-free, for being there for the start of his journey and really kind of kick-starting that journey. He's still on the journey. You don't ever stop. But I think this is a life change that he's made and that will stick for good, for sure.
Thank you, Jaya, for joining us today and sharing that really inspirational story.
Thank you, Cordell, for having me. And whilst we're here, I just wanted to say a final thank you to my dad for making the choice, for starting the journey and doing it for not only himself, but me and anyone that's to come after me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Unfiltered Podcast. To listen to the whole series, visit manchestercitycouncil.podbean.com or listen wherever you get your podcasts. Please remember, if you use tobacco in any form, the best step you can take for your health today is to quit. Free support is available through the Be Smoke Free Manchester service run by Change, Grow, Live Manchester. And you can just search online to find their contact details. Or if you live outside Manchester, you can check the NHS website to find your local stop smoking service. Now is the time to get the support you need to quit for good.